We're calling for an end to this metadata of phone numbers of everybody in the United States of America, without any regard for a criminal investigation going on or anything else, Amy. The point that we're aiming at is to have relevance, which is written into the Section 215 of the Patriot Act, be observed and adhered to, which it wasn't, because what they're doing is creating a haystack in which to put a needle.
Congressmember Massie, the Republicans and Democrats are not usually known for working together these days in Washington. Now, this was nearly passed, this amendment. Talk about your concerns around NSA spying.
My concerns deal with the oversight of the programs and the reporting to Congress and the reporting to people. In March, we had the Director of National Intelligence come to Congress, to the Senate, and tell us that this program did not exist. Yet last week, we had the head of the NSA here lobbying to fund the program. And so what we need is more oversight. They can't both maintain that the program doesn't exist or tell us lies in Congress and then ask us to fund them. Specifically, what we need is more visibility into the FISA court rulings. We understand the need for secrecy and ongoing investigations, but we need to know how the FISA court is interpreting the laws that Congress has written. We need oversight over that from Congress, and we need redacted and declassified versions of those FISA court rulings for the public.
Congressmember Massie, what are your thoughts about Russia granting temporary asylum to Edward Snowden, who really started this ball rolling by revealing what the intelligence officials of this country, from Keith Alexander to James Clapper, have long denied, but now admitted they weren't telling the truth about, that the U.S. is spying on American citizens?
Well, clearly his disclosures have changed the course of human history, really. And I think his initial disclosures were a service to our country, because now we're having this conversation, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. I can't speak for Mr. Snowden's actions now. He's basically a person looking out for his own life at this point. But what he did initially was a service to our country. We need to facilitate a way for whistleblowers to do that in a better fashion. And I don't think our current whistleblower laws would have provided for him to do what he's done in a better fashion. So I'd like to see some reform there as well.
Do you think Russia was right to grant him temporary asylum?
I'm not going to comment on what Russia should have done with Mr. Snowden.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel that Mr. Snowden did the right thing?
I think initially he did, and now it would be hard for me to fault his actions at this point. He's a person who fears for his life, and so, you know, he's doing what he can, I think, to stay alive at this point.
I want to turn to.
And I don't. By the way, I don't think our government really wants to try him. It would be a difficult trial, and I think more things would be disclosed in the process of the trial. So it's not clear to me that we've actually done everything we could to get him back here and try him. There may be another story there as well.
Congressmember Conyers, do you think NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden did the right thing?
Well, I think that he was overzealous and probably didn't. He's clearly broken some laws for which now the government wants to prosecute him for. But inadvertently, he's revealed to us a whole area of secrecy and activity with telephone collections and other things that are now being revealed that would not have been revealed otherwise.
Can I just add that some people say he should have come to a congressman with this information, but there are actually probably 20 or 30 congressmen that already knew about this program, and if he had went to them, I think we wouldn't be having this discussion, and he may already be in jail without the disclosure happening.
I want to turn to President Obama. During an interview with Charlie Rose in June, President Obama dismissed fears the NSA's bulk collection of metadata could potentially be abused.
The very fact that there's all this data in bulk, it has the enormous potential for abuse, because they'll say, you know, you can, when you start looking at metadata, even if you don't know the names, you can match it up. If there's a call to an oncologist and it's a call to a lawyer, and you can pair that up and figure out maybe this person's dying and they're writing their will, and you can yield all this information. All of that is true, except for the fact that for the government under the program right now to do that, it would be illegal. We would not be allowed to do that.
Congressmember Conyers, your response?
Well, of course it would be illegal. That's the whole point that's being made, is that we're not using relevancy in this matter at all, and that's part of the statute. Unless there is relevancy considered, we're on fishing expeditions which are improper and probably illegal. Now, having said that, we've been offered a peek into what we didn't know anything, most of us didn't know anything about. And so I think we should look at more transparency. The makeup of the FISA courts, as you know, Amy, most of those are Chief Justice Roberts handpicked appointees to the court. And I think that there's going to be a lot of follow-up and more legislation and oversight than there's ever been before.
I mean, the Obama administration brought out the heavy hitters, and I was wondering, Congressmember Thomas Massie and Congressmember John Conyers, if you could describe what the scene was like on the legislation that you co-sponsored, Congressman Conyers, with Congressman Amash. I mean, you had the head of the NSA, you had Intelligence Chief James Clapper, coming to the House members to say, defeat this, and yet it was so close.
Well, it was 7 votes would have made the difference. And to be honest, we didn't know that we were that close to victory. I had sent out dear colleague letters urging that Amash Conyers' amendment be supported, and they were panicked by it. It was a signal that even in the partisanship that goes on too much around here, that there are people willing to say enough is enough. The law isn't, the Patriot Act isn't being followed. I didn't support the Patriot Act, but the Patriot Act would have gone down if we had known that this was going to be part of its program.
You know, on the floor of the House, you had the House Majority Leader, you had the Speaker of the House, and the House Minority Leader all got up in really unprecedented fashion and spoke, you know, in favor of keeping these NSA programs going. And I was more optimistic, I think, than my colleague here that it could pass. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when the president came out. And I'm not blaming the Democrats, because more of them voted in favor of the Constitution and freedom on this issue. But really, when the president came out and gave that extra little nudge, I think it hurt us on the Democrat side. But I would defer to my colleague on that. More of his members voted the right way on this issue than my members.